Hello everyone, welcome to class. Hopefully everything is good volume-wise. I'm loading in the fireplace right now. Let's see. Can you hear the fireplace? You should be able to hear it now. I think it's going. We can. Welcome, Crusader. Thank you for being first. And sorry for the only person I said. Now I'm running a little behind. That's my fault. I shouldn't have taken a nap. I should have just stayed awake. How was your stream? Stream was fun. Very good. Good rock music and power washing. I love that game. I need to go back to it. It was definitely a fun game to play. Right, so hello Clarissa, welcome in. ID, welcome in, thank you. Today we are going to be cheated. 6 minutes is 5. It's fine. It's fine. I'm running, and there goes the lag. I should have been up a while ago, but I'm so tired. It's been one hell of a week. Alright. Today, we are going to be reading Ozma of Oz, the third book in the Oz Chronicles, the Chronicles of Oz. Oz Chronicles, whatever it is. And, it's, am I okay? I'm tired. I'm tired. I'll be fine. All good. Ozma of Oz, so a little bit of Return to Oz, or not Return to Oz, Marvelous Land of Oz, and Ozma of Oz are in the next movie, the Return to Oz, which I really, really like, which is that super dark 80s Disney movie that they did for kids, but isn't for kids, but is, before they went soft on kids' movies. So I really like this one. It is much darker, and I should be able to finish it in 2 streams. That was incredible. Yeah, it was terrifying, but I love it. It's a very odd. If no one's watched it, that's fine, because we're gonna watch it in my Discord on, not this Sunday coming up, but next Sunday after I finish this story. See, oh, no, I don't like the wheelies. Or the wheelers. The wheelers. They creep me the hell out because of the noises they make. Oh my god. They creep me out. But I love TikTok. But, yep, we'll learn about them. So, if you'll notice, I have a new friend. On my head is Goomy. Yeah, they were creepy. Goomy is a sea slug. They were made by an artist on Twitter who's doing some art stuff. Is Goomy will be joining us for many streams probably, because I like having Goomy sit on my head. Look how cute they are. But thank you, shout out to Goomy, to the artist D Goomy, for the mama. Goomy's mama. I was gonna animate Goomy, but then I realized when they're sitting on my head, they kind of look like they're kind of moving a little bit anyway, so they're just gonna chill out there. Maybe sometimes on my shoulder. We'll find out. Alright, let's read. So, Ozma of Oz. A record of her... Oh, and yes, my background is now Christmassy. I have a Christmas library with the floofs. A record of her adventures with Dorothy Gale of Kansas, the Yellow Hen, the Scarecrow, the Tin Woodman, Tick-Tock, the Cowardly Lion, and the Hungry Tiger, besides other good people too numerous to mention, faithfully recorded herein. So, if you weren't here for Tip of Oz, or the Marvelous Land of Oz, I should say, Tip was a boy who, raised by the evil witch Mombi. Whole bunch of shenanigans ensued. They defeated the army of revolt, which was run by Queen Ginger, General Ginger, who became Queen Ginger, and Scarecrow found out from Glinda, the Good Witch, that the Emerald City had been previously ruled by another a person before the Wizard of Oz, and that his daughter, he was, he disappeared, whatever. There's some crazy shenanigans involved. And his daughter, Ozma, is the rightful ruler, Princess Ozma. So they needed to find her, and come to find out, Tip is Ozma. Tip was raised as a boy, but Tip is Ozma, and she was not thrilled. Ozma was not thrilled about becoming a girl at first because she didn't want people to change how they reacted to her. And she said, I'm still me, just different, just me. I'm just me. And then was it Jack, I believe, who said, you're you but different. And I was like, I like that. She's like, I'm not different. And then he says, you're different. You're you, but you're different. And I was like, oh, that's cute. Okay. So, here we go. First, the author's note. My friends the children are responsible for this new Oz book, as they were the last one, which was called The Land of Oz. Their sweet little letters plead to know more about Dorothy, and they ask, what became of the Cowardly Lion, and what did Ozma do afterward? Meaning, of course, after she became the ruler of Oz. And some suggest plots to me, saying, please have Dorothy go to the Land of Oz again, or why don't you make Ozma and Dorothy meet and have a good time together? Indeed, could I do all that my little friends ask, I would be obliged to write dozens of books to satisfy their demands. And I wish I could, for I enjoy writing these stories just as much as the children say they enjoy reading them. Well, here is more about Dorothy, and about our old friends the Scarecrow and the Tin Woodman, and about the Cowardly Lion and Ozma and all the rest of them. And here, likewise, is a good deal about some new folks that are queer and unusual. One little friend, who read this story before it was printed, said to me, Billina is real Ozzy. Mr. Baum and so are Tick-Tock and the Hungry Tiger. If this judgment is unbiased and correct, and the little folks find this new story real Ozzy, I shall be very glad indeed that I wrote it. But perhaps I shall get some more of those very welcome letters from my readers, telling me just how they like Ozma of Oz. I hope so anyway. L. Frank Baum, Makatawa, 1907. So, apparently the children demanded more Oz, and he delivered. Here we go. The girl in the... Matsu! Welcome to class, my fellow educator, my head librarian. How are you, Matsu? How was your stream? I know, perfect timing. You did not miss a single thing. I took a much needed nap, but the nap ran over, and so I did not even start. All I did right now was read the note, the author's note. That was it. Your voice is tired, I can imagine. Mine's a little rough, but we shall make it. Yes, I fell asleep and went and slept very hard. Yes. We talked a little bit about what happened in the last book, too, to catch up anyone who hasn't seen it. So hello, everyone coming into class with Matsu. Welcome, my name is Sophia Ignosi, and I am reading Ozma of Oz, the third book in the Oz Chronicles. And after we read this one, next Saturday, not this Saturday, because it'll take 2 streams probably. Next Saturday, we will be watching Return to Oz in my Discord. I hope you join us. I love Return to Oz. My youngest sibling loves Wizard of Oz, the movie, and the books. I prefer Return to Oz, the movie. Because it's delightful 1985 terrifying Disney. I wish they would do some more of those. Okay, The Girl in the Chicken Coop. The wind blew hard and joggled the water of the ocean, sending ripples across its surface. Then the wind pushed the edges of the ripples until they became waves, and shoved the waves around until they became billows. The billows rolled dreadfully high, higher even than the tops of houses. Some of them, indeed, rolled as high as the tops of tall trees, and seemed like mountains, and the gulfs between the great billows were like deep valleys. All this mad dashing and splashing of the waters of the big ocean which the mischievous wind caused without any good reason whatever, resulted in a terrible storm, and a storm on the ocean is liable to cut many queer pranks and do a lot of damage. At the time, I just realized I didn't do a shout out to Matsu. Where are my mods? Okay, there we go. All this mad dashing and splashing of the waters of the big ocean. Well, okay, yes. At the time the wind began to blow, a ship was sailing far out upon the waters. When the waves began to tumble and toss and to grow bigger and bigger, the ship rolled up and down and tipped sideways, first one way and then the other, and was jostled around so roughly that even the sailormen had to hold fast to the ropes and railings to keep themselves from being swept away by the wind or pitched headlong into the sea. And the clouds were so thick in the sky that the sunlight couldn't get through them, so that the day grew dark as night, which added to the terrors of the storm. The captain of the ship was not afraid, because he had seen storms before, and had sailed his ship through them in safety, but he knew that his passengers would be in danger if they tried to stay on deck. So he put them all into the cabin and told them to stay there until after the storm was over, and to keep brave hearts and not be scared, and all would be well with them. Now, among these passengers was a little Kansas girl named Dorothy Gale, who was going with her Uncle Henry to Australia to visit some relatives they had never before seen. Uncle Henry, you must know, was not very well, because he had been working so hard on his Kansas farm that his health had given way and left him weak and nervous. So he left Aunt Em at home to watch after the hired men and to take care of the farm, while he traveled far away to Australia to visit his cousins and have a good rest. Dorothy was eager to go with him on his journey, and Uncle Henry thought she would be good company and help cheer him up, so he decided to take her along. The little girl was quite an experienced traveler, for she had once been carried by a cyclone as far away from home as the marvelous land of Oz, and she had met with a good many adventures in that strange country before she managed to get back to Kansas again. So she wasn't easily frightened, whatever happened, and when the wind began to howl and whistle, and the waves began to tumble and toss, our little girl didn't mind the uproar the least bit. Of course we'll have to stay in the cabin, she said to Uncle Henry and the other passengers, and keep as quiet as possible until the storm is over. For the captain says if we go on deck we may be blown overboard. Hey, welcome, Iseo. Thank you for coming in. No one wanted to risk such an accident as that, you may be sure. So all the passengers stayed huddled up in the dark cabin, listening to the shrieking of the storm and the creaking of the masts and rigging, and trying to keep from bumping into one another when the ship tipped sideways. Dorothy had almost fallen asleep when she was aroused with a start to find that Uncle Henry was missing. She couldn't imagine where he had gone, and as he was not very strong, she began to worry about him, and to fear he might have been careless enough to go on deck. In that case, he would be in great danger unless he instantly came down again. The fact was that Uncle Henry had gone to lie down in his little sleeping berth, but Dorothy did not know that. She only remembered that Aunt Em had cautioned her to take good care of her uncle, so at once she decided to go on deck and find him, in spite of the fact that the tempest was now worse than ever, and the ship was plunging in a really dreadful manner. Indeed, the little girl found it was as much as she could do to mount the stairs to the deck, and as soon as she got there the wind struck her so fiercely that it almost tore away the skirts of her dress. Yet Dorothy felt a sort of joyous excitement in defying the storm, and while she held fast to the railing, she peered around through the gloom and thought she saw the dim form of a man clinging to a mast not far away from her. This might be her uncle, so she called as loudly as she could, "Uncle Henry! Uncle Henry!" But the wind screeched and howled so madly that she scarce heard her own voice, and the man certainly failed to hear her, for he did not move. Dorothy decided she must go to him, so she made a dash forward during a lull in the storm to where the big square chicken coop had been lashed to the deck with ropes. She reached this place in safety, but no sooner had she seized fast hold of the slats of the big box in which the chickens were kept than the wind, as if enraged because the little girl dared to resist its power, suddenly redoubled its fury. With a scream like that of an angry giant, it tore away the ropes that held the coop and lifted it high into the air, with Dorothy still clinging to the slats. Around and over it whirled, this way and that, and a few moments later the chicken coop dropped far away into the sea, where the big waves caught it and slid it uphill to a foaming crest, and then downhill into a deep valley, as if it were nothing more than a plaything to keep them amused. Dorothy had a good ducking, you may be sure, but she didn't lose her presence of mind for even a second. She held tight hold of the stout slats, and as soon as she could get the water out of her eyes, she saw that the wind had ripped the cover from the coop, and the poor chickens were fluttering away in every direction, being blown by the wind until they looked like feather dusters without handles. The bottom of the coop was made of thick boards, so Dorothy found she was clinging to a sort of raft, with sides of slats, which readily bore up her weight. After coughing the water out of her throat and getting her breath again, she managed to climb over the slats and stand upon the firm wooden bottom of the coop, which supported her easily enough. "Why, I've got a ship of my own," she thought, more amused than frightened at her sudden change of condition. And then, as the coop climbed up the top of a big wave, she looked eagerly around for the ship from which she had been blown. It was far, far away by this time. Perhaps no one on board had yet missed her, or knew of her strange adventure. Down into the valley between the waves the coop swept her, and when she climbed another crest the ship looked like a toy boat, it was such a long way off. Soon it had entirely disappeared in the gloom, and then Dorothy gave a sigh of regret at parting with Uncle Henry, and began to wonder what was going to happen to her next. Just now she was tossing on the bosom of a big ocean, with nothing to keep her afloat but a miserable wooden hen coop that had a plank bottom and slatted sides, through which the water constantly splashed and wetted her through to the skin. And there was nothing to eat when she became hungry, as she was sure to do before long, and no fresh water to drink and no dry clothes to put on. "Well, I declare," she exclaimed with a laugh, "you're in a pretty fix, Dorothy Gale, I can tell you, and I haven't the least idea how you're going to get out of it." As if to add to her troubles, the night was now creeping on, and the gray clouds overhead changed to inky blackness. But the wind, as if satisfied at last with its mischievous pranks, stopped blowing this ocean and hurried away to another part of the world to blow something else, so that the waves, not being joggled any more, began to quiet down and behave themselves. It was lucky for Dorothy, I think, that the storm subsided. Otherwise, brave though she was, I fear she might have perished. Many children, in her place, would have wept and given way to despair, but because Dorothy had encountered so many adventures and come safely through them, it did not occur to her at this time to be especially afraid. She was wet and uncomfortable, it is true, but after sighing that one sigh I told you of, she managed to recall some of her customary cheerfulness and decided to patiently await whatever her fate might be. By and by the black clouds rolled away and showed a blue sky overhead, with a silver moon shining sweetly in the middle of it, and little stars winking merrily at Dorothy when she looked their way. The coop did not toss around any more, but rode the waves more gently, almost like a cradle rocking, so that the floor upon which Dorothy sat was no longer swept by water coming through the slats. Seeing this and being quite exhausted by the excitement of the past few hours, the little girl decided that sleep would be the best thing to restore her strength and the easiest way in which she could pass the time. The floor was damp and she was herself wringing wet, but fortunately this was a warm climate and she did not feel at all cold. So she sat down in a corner of the coop, leaned her back against the slats, nodded at the friendly stars before she closed her eyes, and was asleep in half a minute. Anyone who's watched Return to Oz is probably like, what the hell? Like I am. I have a glass of water. It's nice and cold right now. Chapter 2, or next chapter, The Yellow Hen. A strange noise awoke Dorothy, who opened her eyes to find that day had dawned and the sun was shining brightly in a clear sky. She had been dreaming that she was back in Kansas again and playing in the old barnyard with the calves and pigs and chickens all around her, and at first, as she rubbed the sleep from her eyes, she really imagined she was there. K-k-k-k-dock! K-k-k-dock! Ah, here again was the strange noise that had awakened her. Surely it was a hen cackling. But her wide-open eyes first saw, through the slats of the coop, the blue waves of the ocean now calm and placid, and her thoughts flew back to the past night, so full of danger and discomfort. Also she began to remember that she was a waif of the storm, adrift upon a treacherous and unknown sea. Double. What's that? Cried Dorothy, starting to her feet. Why, I've just laid an egg, that's all, replied a small but sharp and distinct voice, and looking around her, the little girl discovered a yellow hen squatting in the opposite corner of the coop. Hey, Annie Vet, welcome in. Dear me, she exclaimed in surprise. Have you been here all night, too? Of course, answered the hen, fluttering her wings and yawning. When the coop flew away from the ship, I clung fast to this corner with claws and beak, for I knew if I fell into the water I'd surely be drowned. Indeed, I nearly drowned as it was, with all the water washing over me. I never was so wet before in my life. Yes, agreed Dorothy. It was pretty wet for a time, I know. But do you feel comfortable now? Not very. The sun has helped to dry my feathers, as it has your dress, and I feel better since I laid my morning egg. But what's to become of us? I should like to know, afloat on this big pond. I'd like to know that too, said Dorothy. But tell me, how does it happen that you are able to talk? I thought hens could only cluck and cackle. Why, as for that, answered the yellow hen thoughtfully, I've clucked and cackled all my life and never spoken a word before this morning, that I can remember. But when you asked a question a minute ago, it seemed the most natural thing in the world to answer you. So I spoke, and I seem to keep on speaking, just as you and other human beings do. Strange, isn't it? Hi, Rayleigh. Welcome in. Very, replied Dorothy. If we were in the land of Oz, I wouldn't think it so queer, because many of the animals can talk in that fair country. But out here in the ocean must be a good long way from Oz. How is my grammar? Asked the yellow hen anxiously. Do I speak quite properly, in your judgment? Yes, said Dorothy. You do very well for a beginner. I'm glad to know that, continued the yellow hen in a confidential tone, because if one is going to talk, it's best to talk correctly. The red rooster has often said that my cluck and my cackle were quite perfect, and now it's a comfort to know I am talking properly. I'm beginning to get hungry, remarked Dorothy. It's breakfast time, but there's no breakfast. You may have my egg, said the yellow hen. I don't care for it, you know. Don't you want to hatch it? Asked the little girl in surprise. No, indeed. I never care to hatch eggs unless I've a nice snug nest in some quiet place with a baker's dozen of eggs under me. That's 13, you know, and that's a lucky number for hens. So you may as well eat this egg. Oh, I couldn't possibly eat it, unless it was cooked, exclaimed Dorothy. But I'm much obliged for your kindness, just the same. Don't mention it, my dear, answered the hen calmly, and began preening her feathers. For a moment, Dorothy stood looking out over the wide sea. She was still thinking of the egg, though, so presently she said, Why do you lay eggs when you don't expect to hatch them? It's a habit I have, replied the yellow hen. It has always been my pride to lay a fresh egg every morning, except when I'm molting. I never feel like having my morning cackle till the egg is properly laid, and without the chance to cackle I would not be happy. It's strange, said the girl reflectively, but as I'm not a hen, I can't be expected to understand that. Certainly not, my dear. Then Dorothy fell silent again. The yellow hen was some company, and a bit comfort, too, but it was dreadfully lonely out on the big ocean, nevertheless. After a time, the hen flew up and perched upon the topmost slat of the coop, which is a little above Dorothy's head, when she was sitting upon the bottom, as she had been doing for some moments past. Why, you're not far from land, exclaimed the hen. Where? Where is it? Cried Dorothy, jumping up in great excitement. Over there a little way, answered the hen, nodding her head in a certain direction. We seem to be drifting toward it, so that before noon we ought to find ourselves upon dry land again. I shall like that, said Dorothy with a little sigh, for her feet and legs were still wetted now and then by the sea water that came through the open slats. So shall I, answered her companion. There is nothing in the world so miserable as a wet hen. The land, which they seemed to be rapidly approaching, since it grew more distinct every minute, was quite beautiful as viewed by the little girl in the floating hen coop. Next to the water was a broad beach of white sand and gravel, and farther back were several rocky hills, while beyond these appeared a strip of green trees that marked the edge of a forest. But there were no houses to be seen, nor any sign of people who might inhabit this unknown land. I hope we shall find something to eat, said Dorothy, looking eagerly at the pretty beach toward which they drifted. It's long past breakfast time now. I'm a trifle hungry myself, declared the yellow hen. Why don't you eat the egg? Asked the child. You don't need to have your food cooked, as I do. Do you take me for a cannibal? Cried the hen indignantly. I do not know what I have said or done that leads you to insult me. I beg your pardon. I'm sure Mrs. By the way, may I inquire your name, ma'am? Asked the little girl. My name is Bill, said the yellow hen somewhat gruffly. Bill? Why, that's a boy's name. What difference does it make? You're a lady hen, aren't you? Of course. When I was first hatched out, no one could tell whether I was going to be a hen or a rooster. So the little boy at the farm where I was born called me Bill, and made a pet of me because I was the only yellow chicken in the whole brood. When I grew up and he found that I didn't crow and fight as all the roosters do, he did not think to change my name, and every creature in the barnyard, as well as the people in the house, knew me as Bill. So Bill I've always been called, and Bill is my name. But it's all wrong, you know, declared Dorothy earnestly. And, if you don't mind, I shall call you Billina. Putting the Ina at the end makes it a girl's name, you see. Oh, I don't mind in the least, returned the yellow hen. It doesn't matter at all what you call me, so long as I know the name means me. Very well, Billina. My name is Dorothy Gale, just Dorothy to my friends, and Miss Gale to strangers. You may call me Dorothy, if you like. We're getting very near the shore. Do you suppose it is too deep for me to wade the rest of the way? Wait a few minutes longer. The sunshine is warm and pleasant, and we are in no hurry. But my feet are all wet and soggy, said the girl. My dress is dry enough, but I won't feel real comfortable till I get my feet dried. She waited, however, as the hen advised. Before long, the big wooden coop grated gently on the sandy beach, and the dangerous voyage was over. When I was younger, I wanted a chicken desperately, and I wanted to name it Billina. I still want a chicken, and I want to name it Billina, but I don't have a chicken. I could theoretically get chickens. However, I don't think my dog would do very well with them. Hydrate. Oh, thank you for the hydrate. Appreciate it. I was just picking up my cup. Appreciate that. I feel like I'm going to be drinking a lot of water tonight. Which, I don't have my giant water cup. It's fine. Where was I? It did not take the castaways long to reach the shore, and you may be sure. The yellow hen flew to the sands at once, but Dorothy had to climb over the high slats. Still, for a country girl, that was not much of a feat, and as soon as she was safe ashore, Dorothy threw off her wet shoes and stockings and spread them upon the sun-warmed beach to dry. Hello, Raj. Welcome. I hope you enjoy your stay. Then she watched Billina, who was pick-pecking away with her sharp bill in the sand and gravel, which she scratched up and turned over with her strong claws. What are you doing? Asked Dorothy. Getting my breakfast, of course, murmured the hen, busily pecking away. What do you find? Inquired the girl curiously. Oh, some fat red ants and some sand bugs, and once in a while a tiny crab. They're very sweet and nice, I assure you. How dreadful! Exclaimed Dorothy in a shocked voice. What is dreadful? Asked the hen, lifting her head to gaze with one bright eye at her companion. Why, eating living things and horrid bugs and crawly ants. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. Goodness me, returned the hen in a puzzled tone. How queer you are, Dorothy. Live things are much fresher and more wholesome than dead ones, and you humans eat all sorts of dead creatures. We don't, said Dorothy. You do indeed, answered Billina. You eat lambs and sheep and cows and pigs and even chickens. But we cook 'em, said Dorothy triumphantly. What difference does that make? A good deal, said the girl in a graver tone. I can't just explain the difference, but it's there, and anyhow, we never eat such dreadful things as bugs. Thank you for the follow, Raj. We are reading Ozma of Oz, and I am doing well, thank you. It is the third book in the Oz Chronicles by Frank Baum. So the first is The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. The second one we finished reading last week, which was The Marvelous Land of Oz, and now we're reading Ozma of Oz. How are you doing? Hopefully well. But you eat the chickens that eat the bugs, retorted the yellow hen with an odd cackle. So you are just as bad as we chickens are. This made Dorothy thoughtful. What Billina said was true enough, and it almost took away her appetite for breakfast. As for the yellow hen, she continued to peck away at the sand busily and seemed quite contented with her bill of fare. Finally, down near the water's edge, Billina stuck her bill deep into the sand, and then she drew back and shivered. "Ow!" she cried. "I struck metal that time, and it nearly broke my beak." "It probably was a rock," said Dorothy carelessly. "Nonsense. I know a rock from metal, I guess," said the hen. "There's a different feel to it." "But there couldn't be any metal on this wild, deserted seashore," persisted the girl. "Where's the place? I'll dig it up and prove to you I'm right." Billina showed her the place where she had stubbed her bill, as she expressed it, and Dorothy dug away the sand until she felt something hard. Then, thrusting in her hand, she pulled the thing out and discovered it to be a large-sized golden key. Rather odd, but still bright and of perfect shape. "What did I tell you?" cried the hen with a cackle of triumph. "Can I tell metal when I bump into it, or is the thing a rock?" "It's metal, sure enough," answered the child, gazing thoughtfully at the curious thing she had found. "I think it is pure gold, and it must have lain hidden in the sand for a long time. How do you suppose it came here, Billina? And what do you suppose this mysterious key unlocks? Thank you for coming redeeming attendance." "I can't say," replied the hen. "You ought to know more about locks and keys than I do." Dorothy glanced around. There was no sign of any house in that part of the country, and she reasoned that every key must fit a lock, and every lock must have a purpose. Perhaps the key had been lost by somebody who lived far away, but had wandered on this very shore. Musing on these things, the girl put the key in the pocket of her dress, and then slowly drew on her shoes and stockings, which the sun had fully dried. "I believe, Billina," she said, "I'll have a look round and see if I can find some breakfast. My name is Sophia." Sophia Ignosi. I am a teacher, streamer. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, I do reading streams like the one you see now. And Sundays and Mondays, I do game streams. Usually, right now, Horizon Forbidden West. Welcome, Mike. It's nice to meet you. Next, letters in the sand. Walking a little way back from the water's edge toward the grove of trees, Dorothy came to a flat stretch of white sand that seemed to have queer signs marked upon its surface, just as one would write upon a sand with a stick. "What does it say?" she asked the yellow hen, who trotted along beside her in a rather dignified fashion. "How should I know?" returned the hen. "I cannot read." "Oh, can't you?" "Certainly not. I've never been to school, you know." "Well, I have," admitted Dorothy. "But the letters are big and far apart, and it's hard to spell out the words." But she looked at each letter carefully and finally discovered that these words were written in the sand. "Beware the Wheelers." Yeah, beware for sure. "That's rather strange," declared the hen when Dorothy had read aloud the words. "What do you suppose the Wheelers are?" "Folks that wheel, I guess. They must have wheelbarrows or baby cabs or hand carts," said Dorothy. "Hi, Nona. Welcome in." "The darn Wheelers, I know." "Perhaps they're automobiles," suggested the yellow hen. "There is no need to beware of baby cabs and wheelbarrows, but automobiles are dangerous things. Several of my friends have been run over by them." "It can't be automobiles," replied the girl, "for this is a new wild country, without even trolley cars or telephones. The people here haven't been discovered yet, I'm sure. That is, if there are any people. So I don't believe there can be any automobiles, Billina." "Perhaps not," admitted the yellow hen. "Where are you going now?" "Over to those trees to see if I can find some fruit or nuts," answered Dorothy. I don't know if this is correct or not, Matsu, but in my copy of the book, it could very well be typos because the book is filled with them. But in this one, a lot of the parts of words are missing and apostrophes are used to give Dorothy a kind of accent. So instead of saying automobiles, she says automobiles, and believe is believe. Telephones is telephones. So I'm just going to read it as the actual words because I'm not sure if it's a typo in the book or what. Perhaps not, admitted the yellow hen. Where are you going now? Over to those trees to see if I can find some fruit or nuts, answered Dorothy. She tramped across the sand, skirting the foot of one of the little rocky hills that stood near, and soon reached the edge of the forest. At first she was greatly disappointed because the nearer trees were all punita or cottonwood or eucalyptus and bore no fruits or nuts at all. But by and by, when she was almost in despair, the little girl came upon 2 trees that promised to furnish her with plenty of food. One was quite full of square paper boxes, which grew in clusters on all the limbs, and upon the biggest and ripest boxes the word lunch could be read in neat raised letters. This tree seemed to bear all year round, for there were lunchbox blossoms on some of the branches, and on others tiny little lunch boxes that weren't quite yet green, and evidently not fit to eat until they had grown bigger. The leaves of this tree were all paper napkins, and it presented a very pleasing appearance to the hungry little girl. But the tree next to the lunchbox tree was even more wonderful, for it bore quantities of tin dinner pails, which were so full and heavy that the stout branches bent underneath their weight. Some were small and dark brown in color, those larger were of dull tin color, but the really ripe ones were pails of bright tin that shone and glistened beautifully in the rays of sunshine that touched them. Dorothy was delighted, and even the yellow hen acknowledged that she was surprised. I wish lunch and dinner grew on trees. Are you kidding me? This would be the best tree ever. The little girl stood on tiptoe and picked one of the nicest and biggest lunch boxes, and then she sat down upon the ground and eagerly opened it. Inside she found nicely wrapped in white papers a ham sandwich, a bit of sponge cake, a pickle, a slice of new cheese, and an apple. Each thing had a separate stem, and so had to be picked off the side of the box, but Dorothy found them all to be delicious, and she ate every bit of the luncheon in the box before she had finished. A lunch isn't exactly breakfast, she said to Billina, who sat beside her curiously, watching. But when one is hungry, one can eat even supper in the morning and not complain. I hope your lunchbox was perfectly ripe, observed the yellow hen in an anxious tone. So much sickness is caused by eating green things. I'm sure it was ripe, declared Dorothy. All that is, except the pickle, and a pickle just has to be green, Billina. But everything tasted perfectly splendid, and I'd rather have it than a church picnic. And now I think I'll pick a dinner pail to have when I get hungry again, and then we'll start out and explore the country and see where we are. Haven't you any idea what country this is? Inquired Billina. None at all. But listen, I'm quite sure it's a fairy country, or such things as lunchboxes and dinner pails wouldn't be growing upon trees. Besides, Billina, being a hen, you wouldn't able to be talked in a civilized country like Kansas, where no fairies live at all. Perhaps we're in the land of Oz, said the hen thoughtfully. No, that can't be, answered the little girl, because I've been to the land of Oz, and it's all surrounded by a horrid desert that no one can cross. Then how did you get away from there again? Asked Billina. I had a pair of silver shoes that carried me through the air, but I lost them, said Dorothy. Ah, indeed, remarked the yellow hen in a tone of unbelief. Anyhow, resumed the girl, there is no seashore near the land of Oz, so this must surely be some other fairy country. While she was speaking, she selected a bright and pretty dinner pail that seemed to have a stout handle and picked it from its branch. Then, accompanied by the yellow hen, she walked out of the shadow of the trees toward the seashore. Hey Zen, how are you? Welcome in. We're back in the land of Oz. Okay, let's see. Back in the land of Oz. They were partway across the sands when Billina suddenly cried in a voice of terror, "What's that?" Dorothy turned quickly around and saw coming out of a path that led from between the trees the most peculiar person her eyes had ever beheld. Don't spoil it, Matsu. It had the form of a man, except that it walked, or rather rolled, upon all fours, and its legs were the and its legs were the same length as its arms, giving them the appearance of the
That's what she said!
Michael! Thank you for that, Rush. Illogical. Upon all fours, and its legs were the same length as its arms, giving them the appearance of the four legs of a beast. Yet it was not a beast that Dorothy had discovered, for the person was clothed most gorgeously in embroidered garments of many colors, and wore a straw hat perched jauntily upon the side of its head. But it differed from human beings in this respect, that instead of hands and feet, there grew at the end of its arms and legs round wheels, and by means of these wheels it rolled very swiftly over the level ground. Afterward, Dorothy found that these odd wheels were of the same hard substance that our fingernails and toenails are composed of, and she also learned that creatures of this strange race were born in this queer fashion. But when our little girl first caught sight of the first individual of a race that was destined to cause her a lot of trouble, she had an idea that the brilliantly clothed personage was on roller skates, which were attached to his hands as well as to his feet. Oh, thank you. I am a teacher. I hope you enjoy it. Run, screamed the yellow hen, fluttering away in great fright. It's a wheeler! A wheeler, exclaimed Dorothy. What can that be? Don't you remember the warning in the sand? Beware the wheelers? Run! I tell you, run! So Dorothy ran, and the wheeler gave a sharp, wild cry and came after her in full chase. Looking over her shoulder as she ran, the girl now saw a great procession of wheelers emerging from the forest, dozens and dozens of them, all clad in splendid, tight-fitting garments and all rolling swiftly toward her and uttering their wild, strange cries. They're sure to catch us, panted the girl, who was still carrying the heavy dinner pail she had picked. I can't run much further, Billina. Climb up this hill, quick, said the hen, and Dorothy found she was very near to the heap of loose and jagged rocks they had passed on their way to the forest. The yellow hen was even now fluttering among the rocks, and Dorothy followed as best she could, half climbing and half tumbling up the rough and rugged steep. She was none too soon, for the foremost wheeler reached the hill a moment after her, but while the girl scrambled up the rocks, the creature stopped short with howls of rage and disappointment. Dorothy now heard the yellow hen laughing in her cackling henny way. Don't hurry, my dear, cried Billina. They can't follow us among these rocks, so we're safe enough now. Dorothy stopped at once and sat down upon a broad boulder, for she was all out of breath. The rest of the wheelers had now reached the foot of the hill, but it was evident that their wheels would not roll upon the rough and jagged rocks, and therefore they were helpless to follow Dorothy and the hen to where they had taken refuge. But they circled all around the little hill, so the child and Billina were fast prisoners and could not come down without being captured. Then the creatures shook their front wheels at Dorothy in a threatening manner, and it seemed they were able to speak as well as to make their dreadful outcries, for several of them shouted, We'll get you in time, never fear, and when we do get you, we'll tear you into little bits. Why are you so cruel to me? Asked Dorothy. I'm a stranger in your country and have done you no harm. No harm, cried one who seemed to be their leader. Did you not pick our lunch boxes and dinner pails? Have you not stolen dinner pails still in your hand? I only picked one of each, she answered. I was hungry and I didn't know the trees were yours. That is no excuse, retorted the leader, who was clothed in a most gorgeous suit. It is the law here that whoever picks a dinner pail without our permission must die immediately. Don't you believe him, said Billina. I'm sure the trees do not belong to these awful creatures. They are fit for any mischief, and that's my opinion they would try to kill us just the same if you hadn't picked a dinner pail. I think so too, agreed Dorothy. But what shall we do now? Stay where we are, advised the yellow hen. We are safe from the wheelers until we starve to death, anyhow. And before that time comes, a good many things can happen. Oh, I can hear them in my head from the movie. Tick-tock, the machine man. After an hour or so, most of the band of wheelers rolled back into the forest, leaving only 3 of their number to guard the hill. These curled themselves up like big dogs and pretended to go to sleep on the sands, but neither Dorothy nor Billina were fooled by this trick, so they remained in security among the rocks and paid no attention to their cunning enemies. Finally, the hen fluttering over the mound exclaimed, "Why, here's a path!" So Dorothy at once clambered to where Billina sat, and there, sure enough, was a smooth path cut between the rocks. It seemed to wind around the mound from top to bottom, like a corkscrew twisting here and there between the rough boulders, but always remaining level and easy to walk upon. Indeed, Dorothy wondered at first why the Wheelers did not roll up this path, but when she followed it to the foot of the mound, she found that several big pieces of rock had been placed directly across the end of the way, thus preventing anyone outside from seeing it and also preventing the Wheelers from using it to climb up the mound. Then Dorothy walked back up the path and followed it until she came to the very top of the hill, where a solitary round rock stood that was bigger than any of the rocks surrounding it. The path came to an end just beside this great rock, and for a moment it puzzled the girl to know why the path had been made at all. But the hen, who had been gravely following her around, and was now perched upon a point of rock behind Dorothy, suddenly remarked, "It looks something like a door, doesn't it?" "What looks like a door?" inquired the child. "Why, that crack in the rock just facing you," replied Billina. Those little round eyes were very sharp and seemed to see everything. "It runs up one side and down the other, and across the top and the bottom." "What does?" "Why, the crack. So I think it must be a door of rock, although I do not see any hinges." "Oh, yes," said Dorothy, now observing for the first time the crack in the rock. "And isn't this a keyhole, Billina?" pointing to a round, deep hole at one side of the door. "Of course. If we only had the key now, we could unlock it and see what there is," replied the yellow hen. "Maybe it's a treasure chamber full of diamonds and rubies or heaps of shining gold, or—" "That reminds me," said Dorothy, "of the golden key I picked up on the shore. Do you think that it would fit this keyhole, Billina?" "Try it and see," suggested the hen. So Dorothy searched the pocket of her dress and found the golden key, and when she put it into the hole of the rock and turned it, a sudden sharp snap was heard. Then, with a solemn creak that made the shivers run down the child's back, the face of the rock fell outward like a door on hinges and revealed a small dark chamber just inside. "Good gracious!" cried Dorothy, shrinking back as far as the narrow path would let her. For standing within the narrow chamber of rock was the form of a man, or at least it seemed like a man in the dim light. He was only about as tall as Dorothy herself, and his body was round as a ball and made out of burnished copper. Also his heads and limbs were copper, and these were jointed or hinged to his body in a peculiar way, with metal caps over the joints, like the armor worn by knights in days of old. He stood perfectly still, and where the light struck upon his form it glittered as if made of pure gold. "Don't be frightened," called Billina from her perch. "It isn't alive." "I see it isn't," replied the girl, drawing a long breath. "It is only made out of copper, like the old kettle in the barnyard at home," continued the hen, turning her head first to one side and then to the other, so that her little round eyes could examine the object. "Once," said Dorothy, "I knew a man made out of tin, who was a woodman named Nick Chopper. But he was as alive as we are, 'cause he was born a real man, and got his tin body a little at a time, first a leg and then a finger and an ear, for the reason that he had so many accidents with his axe and cut himself up in a very careless manner." "Oh," said the hen with a sniff, as if she did not believe the story. "But this copper man," continued Dorothy, looking at it with big eyes, "is not alive at all, and I wonder what it was made for and why it was locked up in this queer place." "Tin Man is a cyborg. I guess?" Hello, Luna CC. Hello, Luna. How are you? Welcome. Thank you for coming in. Thank you for the first time chat. Welcome, welcome. Thank you for the follow the other day. We are reading Ozma of Oz. That's okay. I was late for my own class. We're reading Ozma of Oz, the third book in the Oz Chronicles. He has a brain, no heart, so yes, he is. Okay. Interesting. I never thought of Tin Man being a cyborg. Then this one must be an android. Ooh. That is a mystery, remarked the hen, twisting her head to arrange her wing feathers with her bill. Dorothy stepped inside the little room to get a back view of the copper man, and in this way discovered a printed card that hung between his shoulders, it being suspended from a small copper peg at the back of his neck. She unfastened this card and returned to the path where the light was better, and sat herself down upon a slab of rock to read the printing. It is story time, yes. What does it say? Asked the hen curiously. Dorothy read the card aloud, spelling out the big words with some difficulty, and this is what she read. Smith and Tinkers. Patent, double action, extra responsive, thought creating, perfect talking mechanical man. Fitted with our special clockwork attachment. Thinks, speaks, acts, and does everything but live. Manufactured only at our works at Evna, land of Ev. All infringements will be promptly prosecuted according to law. How queer, said the yellow hen. Do you think that is all true, my dear? I don't know, answered Dorothy, who had more to read. Listen to this, Bellina. Directions for using. For thinking, wind the clockwork man under his left arm, marked number 1. For speaking, wind the clockwork man under his right arm, marked number 2. For walking and action, wind clockwork in the middle of his back, marked number 3. And
it was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
Thank you, Luna. NB, this mechanism is guaranteed to work perfectly for 1,000 years. Well, I declare, gasped the yellow hen in amazement. If the copper man could do half of these things, he is a very wonderful machine. But I suppose it is all humbug, like so many other patented articles. We might wind him up, suggested Dorothy, and see what he'll do. Where is the key to the clockwork? Asked Bellina. Hanging on the peg where I found the card. Then, said the hen, let us try him and find out if he will go. He is warranted for 1,000 years, it seems, but we do not know how long he has been standing inside this rock. Dorothy had already taken the clock key from the peg. Which shall I wind up first? She asked, looking at the directions on the card. Number 1, I should think, returned Bellina. That makes him think, doesn't it? No, you didn't scare me, that's okay. Yes, said Dorothy, and wound up number 1 under the left arm. He doesn't seem any different, remarked the hen critically. Why, of course not. He is only thinking now, said Dorothy. I wonder what he is thinking about. I'll wind up his talk, and then perhaps he can tell us, said the girl. So she wound up number 2, and immediately the clockwork man said, without moving any part of his body except his lips, Good morning, little girl. Good morning, Mrs. Hen. The words sounded a little hoarse and creaky, and they were uttered all in the same tone, without any change of expression whatever, but both Dorothy and Bellina understood them perfectly. Good morning, sir, they answered politely. Thank you for rescuing me, continued the machine in the same monotonous voice, which seemed to be worked by a bellows inside of him, like the little toy lambs and cats the children squeeze so that they will make a noise. Don't mention it, answered Dorothy. And then, being very curious, she asked, How did you come to be locked up in this place? It is a long story, replied the copper man, but I will tell it to you briefly. I was purchased from Smith and Tinker, my manufacturers, by a cruel king of Ev named Evoldo, who used to beat all his servants until they died. However, he was not able to kill me, because I was not alive, and one must live in order to die, so that all his beating did me no harm, and merely kept my copper body well polished. This cruel king had a lovely wife and 10 beautiful children, 5 boys and 5 girls, but in a fit of anger he sold them all to the Gnome King, who by means of his magic arts changed them in all into other forms and put them in his underground palace to ornament the rooms. Afterward, the king of Ev regretted his wicked action and tried to get his wife and children away from the Gnome King, but without avail. So, in despair, he locked me up in this rock, threw the key into the ocean, and then jumped in after it and was drowned. How very dreadful! Exclaimed Dorothy. It is indeed, said the machine. When I found myself imprisoned, I shouted for help until my voice ran down. And then I walked back and forth in this little room until my action ran down. And then I stood still and thought until my thoughts ran down. After that, I remembered nothing until you wound me up again. It's a very wonderful story, said Dorothy, and proves that the land of Ev is really a fairyland, as I thought it was. Of course it is, answered the Copper Man. I do not suppose such a perfect machine as I am could be made in any place but a fairyland. I've never seen one in Kansas, said Dorothy. But where did you get the key to unlock this door? Asked the clockwork voice. I found it on the shore, where it was probably washed up by the waves, she answered. And now, sir, if you don't mind, I'll wind up your action. That will please me very much, said the machine. So she wound up number 3, and at once the Copper Man, in a somewhat stiff and jerky fashion, walked out of the rocky cavern, took off his copper hat, and bowed politely, and then kneeled before Dorothy. Said he, From this time forth I am your obedient servant. Whatever you command, that I will do willingly, if you keep me wound up. What is your name? She asked. Tick-tock, he replied. My former master gave me that name because my clockwork always ticks when it is wound up. I can hear it now, said the yellow hen. So can I, said Dorothy, and then she added with some anxiety, You don't strike, do you? No, answered Tick-tock. There is no alarm connected with my machinery. I can tell the time, though, by speaking, and as I never sleep, I can waken you at any hour you wish to get up in the morning. That's nice, said the little girl, only I never wish to get up in the morning. You can sleep until I lay my eggs, said the yellow hen. Then, when I cackle, Tick-tock will know it is time to waken you. Do you lay your egg very early? Asked Dorothy. About 8 o'clock, said Billina, and everybody ought to be up by that time, I'm sure. I would disagree, Billina. Water. Dorothy opens the dinner pail. I really like this story so far. It's different from the movie, that's for sure. Well, some parts are different from the movie. The beginning is much darker in the movie. But I like this so far. I love Tick-tock and Billina, so. Anyone else? What are your thoughts on the story so far? How do you like it? It's got more of Return to Oz in it than the previous story, but I can see how it blended both. Yeah, it definitely does. Because it has Tick-tock, Billina, the Wheelers, and Dorothy. I do like, yeah, me too. I'm liking this. This is great. Like I said before to anyone who just came in, I want the lunch pail and the dinner pail tree. The lunchbox and dinner pail tree so badly, it's ridiculous. Chickens! I love chickens. Maybe I need a little chicken to sit on my shoulder. Dorothy opens the dinner pail. Now, Tick-tock, said Dorothy. The first thing to be done is to find a way for us to escape from these rocks. The Wheelers are down below, you know, and threaten to kill us. There is no reason to be afraid of the Wheelers, said Tick-tock, the words coming more slowly than before. Why not? She asked. Because they are He gave a sort of gurgle and stopped short, waving his hands frantically, until suddenly he became motionless, with one arm in the air and the other held stiffly before him, with all the copper fingers of the hand spread out like a fan. Dear me, said Dorothy in a frightened tone. What can the matter be? He's run down, I suppose, said the hen calmly. You couldn't have wound him up very tight. I didn't know how much to wind him, replied the girl, but I'll try to do better next time. She ran around the Copper Man to take the key from the peg at the back of his neck, but it was not there. It's gone, cried Dorothy in dismay. What's gone? Asked Billina. The key. It probably fell off when he made that low bow to you, returned the hen. Look around and see if you cannot find it again. Dorothy looked, and the hen helped her, and by the girl discovered the clock key, which had fallen into a crack of the rock. At once she wound up Tick-tock's voice, taking care to give the key as many turns as it would go round. She found this quite a task, as you may imagine if you have ever tried to wind a clock, but the machine man's first words were to assure Dorothy that he would now run for at least 24 hours. "You did not wind me much at first," he calmly said, "and I told you that long story about King Ivoldo, so it is no wonder that I ran down." She next rewound the action clockwork, and then Billina advised her to carry the key to Tick-Tock in her pocket, so it would not get lost again. "And now," said Dorothy, when all this was accomplished, "tell me what you were going to say about the Wheelers." "Why, they're nothing to be frightened at," said the machine. "They try to make folks believe that they are very terrible, but as a matter of fact, the Wheelers are harmless enough to anyone that dares to fight them. They might try to hurt a little girl like you, perhaps, because they are very mischievous, but if I had a club to run away as soon as they would run away as soon as they saw me." "Haven't you a club?" asked Dorothy. "No," said Tick-Tock. "And you won't find such a thing among these rocks either," declared the yellow hen. "Then what shall we do?" asked the girl. "Wind up my think-works tightly, and I will try to think of some other plan," said Tick-Tock. So Dorothy rewound his thought machinery, and while he was thinking, she decided to eat her dinner. Billina was already pecking away at the cracks in the rock to find something to eat, so Dorothy sat down and opened her tin dinner pail. In the cover, she found a small tank that was full of very nice lemonade. Oh, I want lemonade right now. It was covered by a cup, which might also, when removed, be used to drink the lemonade from. Within the pail there were 3 slices of turkey, 2 slices of cold tongue, some lobster salad, 4 slices of bread and butter, a small custard pie, an orange and 9 large strawberries, and some nuts and raisins. Singularly enough, the nuts in this dinner pail grew already cracked, so that Dorothy had no trouble in picking out their meats to eat. I like how they show the whole logic of the Wheeler's limits here. Yeah, that does sound... Right? This sounds delicious, although how the hell she got lobster salad? I don't know. I feel like that's not something she would be familiar with, being, from a farm in Kansas. And, never leaving the farm in Kansas, except for this parent trip to Australia. Because apparently there's cousins there of the uncles. A little odd to me, but whatever. She spread the feast upon the rock beside her, and began her dinner, first offering some of it to Tick-Tock, who declined because, as he said, he was merely a machine. Afterwards she offered to share with Billina, but the hen murmured something about dead things and said she preferred her bugs and ants. "Do the lunchbox trees and the dinner pails belong to the Wheelers?" the child asked Tick-Tock while engaged in eating her meal. "I know. I want the strawberries and the orange and the bread and butter, and the rest of it can go away. The lemonade. Oh my god, I want lemonade so badly right now. I don't have any. Wait, do I? I have some powdered mixture that I got because Merriweather was running a free trial thing for gamer subs, and I got free packets of some powdered drink. Now I'm wondering if some of that was lemon. I don't know if it was lemonade. I'll have to check. "Of course not," he answered. "They belong to the royal family of Ev, only of course there is no royal family just now because King Ivoldo jumped into the sea and his wife and 10 children have been transformed by the Gnome King. So there is no one to rule the land of Ev that I can think of. Perhaps it is for this reason that the Wheelers claim the trees for their own and pick the luncheons and dinners to eat themselves. But they belong to the king, and you will find the royal E stamped upon the bottom of every dinner pail." Dorothy turned the pail over and at once discovered the royal mark upon it, as Tick-Tock had said. "Are the Wheelers the only folks living in the land of Ev?" inquired the girl. "No. They only inhabit a small portion of it just back of the woods," replied the machine. "But they have always been mischievous and impertinent, and my old master, King Ivoldo, used to carry a whip with him when he walked out to keep the creatures in order. When I was first made, the Wheelers tried to run over me and butt me with their heads, but they soon found I was built of too solid a material for them to injure." "You seem very adorable," said Dorothy. "Who made you?" the firm of Smith and Tinker in the town of Evna, where the royal palace stands, answered Tick-Tock. Did they make many of you? Asked the child. No, I am the only automatic mechanical man they ever completed, he replied. They were very wonderful inventors, were my makers, and quite artistic in all they did. I am sure of that, said Dorothy. Do they live in the town of Evna now? They are both gone, replied the machine. Mr. Smith was an artist as well as an inventor, and he painted a picture of a river which was so natural that, as he was reaching across it to paint some flowers on the opposite bank, he fell into the water and was drowned. Oh, I'm sorry for that, exclaimed the little girl. Mr. Tinker, continued Tick-Tock, made a ladder so tall that he could rest the end of it against the moon while he stood on the highest rung, and picked the little stars to set in the points of the king's crown. But when he got to the moon, Mr. Tinker found it such a lovely place that he decided to live there, so he pulled up the ladder after him, and we have never seen him since. He must have been a great loss to this country, said Dorothy, who was by this time eating her custard pie. He was, acknowledged Tick-Tock. Also, he is a great loss to me, for if I should get out of order, I do not know of anyone able to repair me, because I am so complicated. You have no idea how full of machinery I am. I can imagine, said Dorothy readily. And now, continued the machine, I must stop talking and begin thinking again of a way to escape from this rock. So he turned half away around in order to think without being disturbed. The best thinker I ever knew, said Dorothy to the yellow hen, was a scarecrow. Nonsense, snapped Billina. It is true, declared Dorothy. I met him in the land of Oz, and he traveled with me to the city of the great Wizard of Oz, so as to get some brains, for his head was only stuffed with straw. But it seemed to me that he thought just as well before he got his brains as he did afterward. You expect me to believe all that rubbish about the land of Oz? Inquired Billina, who seemed a little cross. Perhaps because bugs were scarce. What rubbish? Asked the child, who was now finishing her nuts and raisins. Why, your impossible stories about animals that can talk, and a Tin Woodman who is alive, and a scarecrow who can think. Billina. Billina, you're literally talking about yourself right now. They are all there, said Dorothy, for I have seen them. I don't believe it, cried the hen with a toss of her head. That's 'cause you're so ignorant, replied the girl, who was a little offended at her friend Billina's speech. In the land of Oz, remarked Tick-Tock, turning toward them, anything is possible, for it is a wonderful fairy country. There, Billina, what did I say? Cried Dorothy, and then she turned to the machine and asked in an eager tone, Do you know the land of Oz, Tick-Tock? No, but I have heard about it, said the Copper Man, for it is only separated from this land of Ev by a broad desert. Dorothy clapped her hands together delightedly. I am glad of that, she exclaimed. It makes me quite happy to be so near my old friends. The scarecrow I told you of, Billina, is the king of the land of Oz. Pardon me, he is not the king now, said Tick-Tock. He was when I left there, declared Dorothy. I know, said Tick-Tock, but there was a revolution in the land of Oz, and the scarecrow was deposed by a soldier woman named General Ginger, and then Ginger was deposed by a little girl named Ozma, who was the rightful heir to the throne and now rules the land under the title of Ozma of Oz. Hello, Goomy! Goomy in chat is the mama of the Goomy on my head. Let me give a shout out to Goomy. Goomy has wonderful art and everyone should go commission Goomy. Hey, it's Slug Mama. I love Goomy so much. Goomy's just chilling while I read the story. Safe from Billina on top of my head, I might add. That is news to me, said Dorothy thoughtfully, but I suppose lots of things have happened since I left the land of Oz. I wonder what has become of the Scarecrow and of the Tin Woodman and the Cowardly Lion, and I wonder who this girl Ozma is, for I have never heard of her before. But Tick-Tock did not reply to this. He had turned around again to resume his thinking. Dorothy packed the rest of the food back into the pail so as not to be wasteful of good things, and the yellow hen forgot her dignity far enough to pick up all of the scattered crumbs, which she ate rather greedily, although she had so lately pretended to despise the things that Dorothy preferred as food. By this time, Tick-Tock approached them with a stiff bow. "Be kind enough to follow me," he said, "and I will lead you away from here to the town of Evna, where you will be more comfortable, and also I will protect you from the Wheelers." "All right," answered Dorothy promptly. "I'm ready." Papa then Mama, but sure. I prefer Papa. Then you are Papa. Gumi is Papa. Slug Papa. Did the modeling instead of the rigging. Did the modeling and not the rigging. But still the Papa. Okay. We are on the next chapter, which is the Heads of Langwidere. I think I know what this is. I'm going to do a quick ad break because I'm already out of water and I'm really, really thirsty because of my nap. I had a warm blanket on and I had my floofs on me and I was like sleeping. So I will be right back. Don't go anywhere. It'll be just a minute or however long the ad runs, and then we will continue. So I will be right back. Everyone stretch and hydrate while I'm gone. Woo! Wrong one. Okay. Did the ad run? It's saying that it's preparing the ad. Okay. Well, thank you. I'm back. I chugged a glass of water. I am a sub. You're sub. Everyone's like, subbed, haha. Chugged a glass of water. Asta decided to try to chip me. You don't know I'm on mobile. Okay. I have water, I chugged a glass, and I'm back. Asta tried to trip me when I turned around, so she is chaos incarnate. Okay, here we go. The Heads of Langwidere. They walked slowly down the path between the rocks, Tick-Tock going first, Dorothy following him, and the yellow hen trotting along last of all. At the foot of the path, the copper man leaned down and tossed aside with ease the rocks that encumbered the way. Then he turned to Dorothy and said, "Let me carry your dinner pail." She placed it in his right hand at once, and the copper fingers closed firmly over the stout handle. Can you join? Of course, if you wanted to. You don't have to sub in order to follow. You could to hang out on my stream. You can always just do the follow. But if you would like to sub, feel free to do so. She placed it in his right hand at once, and the copper fingers closed firmly over the stout handle. Then the little procession marched out upon the level sands. Oh, thank you, Annie Vet, for gifting Raj the sub. That was so sweet. Oh, I appreciate you. Mwah. As soon as the three wheelers who were guarding the mound saw them, they began to shout their wild cries and rolled swiftly toward the little group as if to capture them or bar their way. And when the foremost had approached near enough, Tick-Tock swung the tin dinner pail and struck the wheeler a sharp blow over its head with the queer weapon. Perhaps it did not hurt very much, but it made a great noise, and the wheeler uttered a howl and tumbled over upon its side. The next minute it scrambled to its wheels and rolled away as far as it could go, screeching with fear at the same time. 'Tis the season. Thank you. I told you they were harmless, began Tick-Tock. But before he could say more, another wheeler was upon them. Crack went the dinner pail against its head, knocking its straw hat a dozen feet away, and that was enough for this wheeler also. It rolled away after the first one, and the third did not wait to be pounded with the pail, but joined its fellows as quickly as its wheels would whirl. The yellow hen gave a cackle of delight, and flying to a perch upon Tick-Tock's shoulder, she said, Bravely done, my copper friend, and wisely thought of, too. Now we are free from those ugly creatures. But just then a large band of wheelers rolled from the forest, and relying upon their numbers to conquer, they advanced fiercely upon Tick-Tock. Dorothy grabbed Billina in her arms and held her tight, and the machine embraced the form of the little girl with his left arm, to better protect her. Then the wheelers were upon them. Raj, Anivet gifted you a sub. Thank you, though. I appreciate it. Rattle-dee-bang-bang went the dinner pail in every direction, and it made so much clatter bumping against the heads of the wheelers that they were much more frightened than hurt and fled in a great panic. All, that is, except their leader. This wheeler had stumbled against another and fallen flat upon his back, and before he could get his wheels under him to rise again, Tick-Tock had fastened his copper fingers into the neck of the gorgeous jacket of his foe and held him fast. Tell your people to go away, commanded the machine. The leader of the wheelers hesitated to give this order, so Tick-Tock shook him as a terrier dog does a rat, until the wheeler's teeth rattled together with a noise like hailstones on a window pane. Then, as soon as the creature could get its breath, it shouted to the others to roll away, which they immediately did. Now, said Tick-Tock, you shall come with us and tell me what I want to know. You'll be sorry for treating me this way, whined the wheeler. I'm a terribly fierce person. But can I join, though? I don't understand what you mean by join. Join what? As for that, answered Tick-Tock, I am only a machine and cannot feel sorrow or joy no matter what happens. But you are wrong to think yourself terrible or fierce. Why so? Asked the wheeler. Because no one else thinks as you do. Your wheels make you helpless to injure anyone, for you have no fists and cannot scratch or even pull hair, nor have you any feet to kick with. All you can do is yell and shout, and that does not hurt anyone at all. The reading, I mean, if you'd like to read the book, sure. It's in the public domain. Let me see if I can find a copy. If you'd like to, read your own version. Trying to find it online. I think if you go to Project Gutenberg, yes, Project Gutenberg has the book. So if anyone is interested in reading Ozma of Oz along with me, you can find the book here. That is Ozma of Oz. So if anyone is interested in reading it, I should do that. I should post the link to it every stream. You're welcome. Happy to help. If anyone else is interested, Project Gutenberg or Gutenberg.org has all. It might not have all, but it has most books that are in the public domain available for free because they are for free. So you can download, you can read it online, you can get an e-reader. If you have a Kindle, you have the EPUB file or plain text files, and they can send it to your e-readers of choice. It is absolutely a fantastic resource for a lot of the books. So I think pretty much all of the Oz books are there. I should post these in. Yep. If you go here... Oh, yeah, you can buy the book. This is all of them. The version of the book that I have... send a link. Actually, the version that I have is out of print, but... if you are interested in it... Let's set it as... Oh, if you know that, can you send it to me, Matsu, and I'll post it on here, because I don't think it'll allow me to post that. I don't think it'll allow you to post it, because even though I have some people as VIPs, they're like some reason not able to do that either. Yeah, I'm not sure how. If you send that over to me, I shall do that. I'll be happy to post that. Because there are some great ones. It was hard for me to find one. I mean, I already own volumes 2 and 3 of the series, so I had to find the first one. Unfortunately, it was out of print. But yes, if you have a good hardcover version, that would be fantastic. There's this. If you want the e-book, well, that's a Kindle version too. I don't know how good the quality is. But yes, if you could find some, that would be great, Matsu. I would appreciate that. And Matsu comes through. I have it for everyone. Let me copy the short link to it. Oh, I almost bought this version, but I didn't know if it was good or not. Okay, so let me get the link, shortened link to it. Share, copy link. Okay, so here's a hardcover version. I do not play Call of Duty, no. Unfortunately, that is not the game I like. But that is a, if Matsu says it's a good version, I am going to say 100% it is good, and I trust him. Because Matsu is our librarian. Okay, back to the story after I take a sip of water again. Okay. So, TikTok just tore down the Wheeler logic. The Wheeler burst into a flood of tears, to Dorothy's great surprise. "Now I and my people are ruined forever," he sobbed. "For you have discovered our secret. Being so helpless, our only hope is to make people afraid of us by pretending we are very fierce and terrible, and writing in the sand warnings to beware the Wheelers. Until now we have frightened everyone, but since you have discovered our weakness, our enemies will fall upon us and make us very miserable and unhappy." My voice is familiar. Thank you, Noah. "Oh no," exclaimed Dorothy, who was sorry to see this beautifully dressed Wheeler so miserable. "TikTok will keep your secret, and so will Bellina and I. Only you must promise not to try to frighten children anymore if they come near to you." I don't know if I feel bad for them, because they still terrify me. I mean, yes, vaguely. I won't. Indeed, I won't, promised the Wheeler, ceasing to cry and becoming more cheerful. I'm not really bad, you know, but we have to pretend to be terrible in order to prevent others from attacking us. That is not exactly true, said Tick-Tock, starting to walk toward the path through the forest, and still holding fast to his prisoner, who rolled slowly alongside beside him. You and your people are full of mischief, and like to bother those who fear you, and you are often impudent and disagreeable too. But if you will try to cure those faults, I will not tell anyone how helpless you are. I'll try, of course, replied the Wheeler eagerly, and thank you, Mr. Tick-Tock, for your kindness. I am only a machine, said Tick-Tock. I cannot be kind any more than I can be sorry or glad. I can only do what I am wound up to do. Are you wound up to keep my secret? Asked the Wheeler anxiously. Yes, if you behave yourself. But tell me, who rules the land of Ev now? Asked the machine. There is no ruler, was the answer, because every member of the royal family is imprisoned by the Gnome King. But the Princess Langwidere, who is a niece of our late King Evoldo, lives in a part of the royal palace and takes as much money out of the royal treasury as she can spend. The Princess Langwidere is not exactly a ruler, you see, because she doesn't rule, but she is the nearest approach to a ruler we have at present. I do not remember her, said Tick-Tock. What does she look like? That I cannot say, replied the Wheeler, although I have seen her 20 times. For the Princess Langwidere is a different person every time I see her, and the only way her subjects can recognize her at all is by means of a beautiful ruby key, which she always wears on a chain attached to her left wrist. When we see the key, we know we are beholding the princess. Thank you for coming, Raj. I appreciate the follow, and enjoy your sub, and I will see you next time. Thank you. Ah, good. Yes, look at the books. Enjoy. Thank you, Crusader, for the redeem. Oh my god, I'm almost done with that glass of water, too. Holy. That is strange, said Dorothy in astonishment. Do you mean to say that so many different princesses are one and the same person? Not exactly, answered the Wheeler. There is, of course, but one princess, but she appears to us in many forms, which are all more or less beautiful. She must be a witch, exclaimed the girl. I do not think so, declared the Wheeler, but there is some mystery connected with her nevertheless. She is a very vain creature and lives mostly in a room surrounded by mirrors, so that she can admire herself whichever way she looks. No one answered this speech, because they had just passed out of the forest, and their attention was fixed upon the scene before them, a beautiful vale in which were many fruit trees and green fields, with pretty farmhouses scattered here and there in broad, smooth roads that led in every direction. Oh, thank you for the posture check. Oh. In the center of this lovely vale, about a mile from where our friends were standing, rose the tall spires of the royal palace, which glittered brightly against their background of blue sky. The palace was surrounded by charming grounds full of flowers and shrubbery. Several tinkling fountains could be seen, and there were pleasant walks bordered by rows of white marble statuary. All these details Dorothy was, of course, unable to notice or admire until they had advanced along the road to a position quite near to the palace, and she was still looking at the pretty sights when her little party entered the grounds and approached the big front door of the king's own apartments. To their disappointment, they found the door tightly closed. A sign was tacked to the panel which read as follows: Owner absent. Please knock at the third door in the left wing. Now, said Tick-Tock to the captive Wheeler, you must show us the way to the left wing. Very well, agreed the prisoner. It is right around here at the right. How can the left wing be at the right? Demanded Dorothy, who feared the Wheeler was fooling them. Because there used to be 3 wings, and 2 were torn down, so the one on the right is the only one left. It was a trick of the Princess Langwidere to prevent visitors from annoying her. Then the captive led them around to the wing, after which the machine man, having no further use for the Wheeler, permitted him to depart and rejoin his fellows. He immediately rolled away at a great pace and was soon lost to sight. Tick-Tock now counted the doors in the wing and knocked loudly upon the third one. It was opened by a little maid in a cap trimmed with gay ribbons, who bowed respectfully and asked, What do you wish, good people? Are you Princess Langwidere? Asked Dorothy. No, miss, I am her servant, replied the maid. May I see the princess, please? I will tell her you are here, miss, and ask her to grant you an audience, said the maid. Step in, please, and take a seat in the drawing room. So Dorothy walked in, followed closely by the machine. But as the yellow hen tried to enter the room, enter after them, the little maid cried, "Shoo!" and flapped her apron in Billina's face. "Shoo yourself!" retorted the hen, drawing back in anger and ruffling up her feathers. "Haven't you any better manners than that?" "Oh, do you talk?" inquired the maid, evidently surprised. "Can't you hear me?" snapped Billina. "Drop that apron and get out of the doorway so that I may enter with my friends." "The princess won't like it," said the maid, hesitating. "I don't care whether she likes it or not," replied Billina, and fluttering her wings with a loud noise, she flew straight at the maid's face. The little servant at once ducked her head, and the hen reached Dorothy's side in safety. "Very well," sighed the maid. "If you are all ruined because of this obstinate hen, don't blame me for it. It isn't safe to annoy the Princess Langwidere." "Tell her we are waiting, if you please," Dorothy requested with dignity. "Billina is my friend and must go wherever I go." Without more words, the maid led them to a richly furnished drawing room, lighted with subdued rainbow tints that came in through beautiful stained glass windows. "Remain here," she said. "What names shall I give the princess?" "I am Dorothy Gale of Kansas," replied the child, "and this gentleman is a machine named Tick-Tock, and the yellow hen is my friend Billina." The little servant bowed and withdrew, going through several passages and mounting 2 marble stairways before she came to the apartments occupied by her mistress. Princess Langwidere's sitting room was paneled with great mirrors, which reached from ceiling to the floor. Also, the ceiling was composed of mirrors, and the floor was of polished silver that reflected every object upon it. So when Langwidere sat in her easy chair and played soft melodies upon her mandolin, her form was mirrored hundreds of times in walls and ceiling and floor, and whichever way the lady turned her head, she could see and admire her own features. This she loved to do, and just as the maid entered, she was saying to herself, "This head with the auburn hair and hazel eyes is quite attractive. I must wear it more often than I have done of late, although it may not be the best of my collection." "You have company, your highness," announced the maid, bowing low. "Who is it?" asked Langwidere, yawning. "Dorothy Gale of Kansas, Mr. Tick-Tock, and Billina," answered the maid. "What a queer lot of names," murmured the princess, beginning to be a little interested. "What are they like? Is Dorothy Gale of Kansas pretty?" "She might be called so," the maid replied. "And is Mr. Tick-Tock attractive?" continued the princess. "That I cannot say, your highness, but he seems very bright. Will your gracious highness see them?" "Oh, I may as well, Nanda. But I am tired of admiring this head, and if my visitor has any claim to beauty, I must take care that she does not surpass me. So I will go to my cabinet and change to number 17, which I think is my best appearance, don't you?" "Your number 17 is exceedingly beautiful," answered Nanda with another bow. Again the princess yawned. Then she said, "Help me to rise." So the maid assisted her to gain her feet, although Langwidere was the stronger of the two, and then the princess slowly walked across the silver floor to her cabinet, leaning heavily at every step upon Nanda's arm. Now I must explain to you that the Princess Langwidere had 30 heads. Yeah, it really is interesting. Has 30 heads, as many as there are days in the month. But of course she could only wear one of them at a time because she had but one neck. These heads were kept in what she called her cabinet, which was a beautiful dressing room that lay just between Langwidere's sleeping chamber and the mirrored sitting room. Each head was in a separate cupboard lined with velvet. The cupboards ran all around the sides of the dressing room and had elaborately carved doors with gold numbers on the outside and jeweled framed mirrors on the inside of them. When the princess got out of her crystal bed in the morning, she went to her cabinet, opened one of the velvet-lined cupboards, and took the head it contained from its golden shelf. Then, by the aid of the mirror inside the open door, she put on the head, as neat and straight as could be, and afterward called her maids to robe her for the day. She always wore a simple white costume that suited all the heads. For being able to change her face whenever she liked, the princess had no interest in wearing a variety of gowns, as have other ladies who are compelled to wear the same face constantly. "Hello, Firefly!" Of her and the heads, yeah. Ugh. A Return to Oz definitely does an interesting thing with it. That's for sure. Of course, the 30 heads were in great variety, no two formed alike, but all being in exceeding loveliness. There were heads with golden hair, brown hair, rich auburn hair, and black hair, but none with gray hair. The heads had eyes of blue, of gray, of hazel, of brown, and of black, but there were no red eyes among them, and all were bright and handsome. The noses were Grecian, Roman, Retruse, and Oriental, representing all types of beauty, and the mouths were of assorted sizes and shapes, displaying pearly teeth when the heads smiled. As for dimples, they appeared in cheeks and chins, wherever they might be most charming, and one or two heads had freckles upon the faces to contrast the better with the brilliancy of their complexions. One key unlocked all the velvet cupboards containing these treasures, a curious key carved from a single blood-red ruby, and this was fastened to a strong but slender chain which the princess wore around her left wrist. When Nanda had supported Langwidere to a position in front of cupboard number 17, the princess unlocked the door with her ruby key, and after handing number 9, which she had been wearing, to the maid, she took number 17 from its shelf and fitted it to her neck. It had black hair and dark eyes, and a lovely pearl and white complexion, and when Langwidere wore it, she knew she was remarkably beautiful in appearance. A shame, no silver fox look. Tisk tisk. Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess silver fox would more apply to men? Usually? I don't know. There was only one trouble with number 17. The temper that went with it, and which was hidden somewhere under the glossy black hair, was fiery, harsh, and haughty in the extreme, and it often led the princess to do unpleasant things which she regretted when she came to wear her other heads. But she did not remember this today, and went to meet her guests in the drawing-room with a feeling of certainty that she would surprise them with her beauty. However, she was greatly disappointed to find that her visitors were merely a small girl in a gingham dress, a copper man that would only go when wound up, and a yellow hen that was sitting contentedly in Langwidere's best work-basket, where there was a china egg used for darning stockings. "Oh," said Langwidere, slightly lifting the nose of number 17. "I thought someone of importance had called." "Then you were right," declared Dorothy. "I'm a good deal of importance myself, and when Bellina lays an egg, she has the proudest cackle you ever heard. As for Tick-Tock, he's the—" "Stop, stop," commanded the princess, with an angry flash of her splendid eyes. "How dare you annoy me with your senseless chatter?" "Why, you horrid thing," said Dorothy, who was not accustomed to being treated so rudely. The princess looked at her more closely. "Tell me," she resumed, "are you of royal blood?" "Better than that, ma'am," said Dorothy. "I came from Kansas." "Huh!" cried the princess scornfully. "You are a foolish child, and I cannot allow you to annoy me. Run away, you little goose, and bother someone else." Dorothy was so indignant that for a moment she could find no words to reply. But she rose from her chair and was about to leave the room when the princess, who had been scanning the girl's face, stopped her by saying more gently, "Nearer to me." Yeah, she really has. There's a footnote. It may surprise you to learn that a princess has ever done such a common thing as darn stockings, but if you will stop to think, you will realize that a princess is sure to wear holes in her stockings, the same as other people, only it isn't considered quite polite to mention the matter. Dorothy obeyed without a thought of fear and stood before the princess while Langwidere examined her face with careful attention. "You are rather attractive," said the lady presently. "Not at all beautiful, you understand, but you have a certain style of prettiness that is different from that of any of my 30 heads. So I believe I'll take your head and give you number 26 for it." "I believe you won't!" exclaimed Dorothy. "It will do you no good to refuse," continued the princess, "for I need your head for my collection, and in the land of Ev my will is law. I never have cared much for number 26, and you will find that it is very little worn. Besides, it will do you just as well as the one you're wearing, for all practical purposes." "I don't know anything about your number 26, and I don't want to," said Dorothy firmly. "I'm not used to taking cast-off things, so I'll just keep my own head." "You refuse?" cried the princess with a frown. "Of course I do," was the reply. Then, said Languideer, I shall lock you up in a tower until you decide to obey me. Nanda, turning to her maid, call my army. Nanda rang a silver bell, and at once a big fat colonel in a bright red uniform entered the room, followed by 10 lean soldiers, who all looked sad and discouraged, and saluted the princess in a very melancholy fashion. Carry that girl to the North Tower and lock her up, cried the princess, pointing to Dorothy. To hear is to obey, answered the big red colonel, and caught the child by her arm. But at that moment, Tik-Tok raised his dinner pail and pounded it so forcibly against the colonel's head that the big officer sat down upon the floor with a sudden bump, looking both dazed and very much astonished. Help! He shouted, and the 10 lean soldiers sprang to assist their leader. That was mentioned. I was curious. Yeah. That was very, the taming of the shrew. It is. There was great excitement for the next few moments, and Tik-Tok had knocked down 7 of the army, who were sprawling in every direction upon the carpet, when suddenly the machine paused, with the dinner pail raised for another blow, and remained perfectly motionless. My action has run down, he called to Dorothy. Wind me up, quick. She tried to obey, but the big colonel had by this time managed to get upon his feet again, so he grabbed fast hold of the girl, and she was helpless to escape. This is too bad, said the machine. I ought to have run 6 hours longer at least, but I suppose my walk and my fight with the Wheelers made me run down faster than usual. Well, it can't be helped, said Dorothy with a sigh. Will you exchange heads with me? Demanded the princess. No, indeed, cried Dorothy. Then lock her up, said Languideer to her soldiers, and they led Dorothy to a high tower at the north of the palace, and locked her securely within. The soldiers afterward tried to lift Tik-Tok, but they found the machine so solid and heavy that they could not stir it. So they left him standing in the center of the drawing room. People will think I have a new statue, said Languideer, so it won't matter in the least, and Nanda can keep him well polished. What shall we do with the hen? Asked the colonel, who had just discovered Billina in the work-basket. Put her in the chicken house, answered the princess. Some day I'll have her fried for breakfast. Welcome back. Welcome in, Crow. How are you? She looks rather tough, your highness, said Nanda doubtfully. That is a base slander, cried Billina, struggling frantically in the colonel's arms. But the breed of chickens I come from is said to be poison to all princesses. Then, remarked Languideer, I will not fry the hen, but keep her to lay eggs, and if she doesn't do her duty, I'll have her drowned in the horse trough. This is violent as hell for kids. Oh my god. So violent. A princess who beheads people. Played VR and now he feels like, no, I missed it. Aww. Lay down and listen to my soothing voice. For the term action-packed. Oh, Crow, I feel bad that you don't feel well. I'm sorry. I don't know why you do it to yourself. Okay. Ozma of Oz to the rescue. Blah blah! Gumi is saying hello. Gumi's papa is here as well. Gumi loves you too, blah blah. Yes, I believe Gumi's papa is still here. Gumi is just chilling, listening to the story. Let's see, how much more was I gonna read today? I feel like the book was longer than I thought, but also not. Oh, Jesus. I've read a lot more than I... Hold on, 25... It's 80, so if I did 40 and 40... Okay. I'm a closer than I thought to... I had only given myself like 20. I'm like, oh my god, I still have 30 pages to read today? How? I do math terribly. For some reason, I thought 170 pages to 230 was 40 pages. And that 30 to 50 is 40 pages. There's a reason I'm an English teacher, people. Let's change that a little bit. Okay, we're gonna stop at that one. So you're not a math... No, I am not. I am an English teacher. Hence my reading. I had at one point a math redeem. Make me do a math problem. That was very bad. Yep, very, very, very bad. Because I can't do the math that people gave me. To be fair, one was like some sort of engineering thing. And I was like, yeah, no, there's more letters than numbers in that. Yes, an English teacher. Okay, let's see. Where was I? I lost my page already. Okay, there we are. Alright, so we've got, we'll read one more chapter. 2 more chapters this read. Okay, here we go. Hi, Blair. Ozma of Oz to the rescue. Woo! Nanda brought Dorothy bread and water for her supper, and she slept upon a hard stone couch with a single pillow and a silken coverlet. In the morning, she leaned out of the window of her prison in the tower to see if there was any way to escape. The room was not so very high up when compared with our modern buildings, but it was far enough above the trees and farmhouses to give her a good view of the surrounding country. To the east she saw the forest, with the sands beyond it, and the ocean beyond that. There was even a dark speck upon the shore that she thought might be the chicken coop in which she had arrived at this singular country. Then she looked to the north and saw a deep but narrow valley lying between 2 rocky mountains, and a third mountain that shut off the valley at the further end. Westward, the fertile land of Ev suddenly ended a little way from the palace, and the girl could see miles and miles of sandy desert that stretched further than her eyes could reach. It was this desert, she thought, with much interest, that alone separated her from the wonderful land of Oz, and she remembered sorrowfully that she had been told no one had ever been able to cross this dangerous waste but herself. Once a cyclone had carried her across it, and a magical pair of silver shoes had carried her back again, but now she had neither a cyclone nor silver shoes to assist her, and her condition was sad indeed, for she had become the prisoner of a disagreeable princess who insisted that she must exchange her head for another one that she was not used to, and which might not fit her at all. Hold up. If nobody has ever passed over this desert, how does TikTok know about Ozma and everything that happened in Oz? Plot hole! Big brain Sophia. I have no idea. Oh, Matsu, yes. Oh, 2 books later it'll explain it? Okay. It can be. Is it? Yes. So the movie actually has it taking place in Oz, but in the book, she's in the land of Ev, not Oz, but Ev. Which makes you wonder: is there like a land of Axe or something, or or something? I don't know. I can't think of anything. What's really What's really interesting, the land of A. Any event. What's interesting is the book has, oh my god, I just realized something. The front of the book has the map of Oz on it, and it has, Emerald City, Winky Country, Munchkin, all that. And it says, Map of the Marvelous Land of Oz, drawn by Professor Wogglebug T.E. There is an X. There is an X. Oz, Ev, X. That makes sense. So there should be an A. Lorded over by the great and powerful Fonz. In some of the early books, they accidentally published the map backwards. Really? Oh, and it shows where Jack Pumpkinhead was there. Scarecrow's Tower. Interesting. So Winky Country was on the left. I have Queen of Zixi of Ix, I think. Oh! Yes! I do know that one! I didn't realize that was part of Oz. Wait, I do realize that. Yes, Volume 3 has Queen Zixi of Ix. And there's also You and Mo. Interesting. Interesting. I haven't read those. Most editions correct it. Alright. There is a full canon of side books. Ah, yes, yes. You told me about that before. I can't wait. I need to read all of them. Okay, Ozma of Oz. So coverlet. Okay, oh yes. Really, there seemed no hope of help for her from her old friends in the land of Oz. Thoughtfully, she gazed from her narrow window. On all the desert, not a living thing was stirring. Wait, though. Something surely was stirring on the desert. Something her eyes had not observed at first. Now it seemed like a cloud. Now it seemed like a spot of silver. Now it seemed like to be a mass of rainbow colors that moved swiftly toward her. What could it be, she wondered. Then gradually, but in a brief space of time nevertheless, the vision drew near enough to Dorothy to make out what it was. Even mention it. Oh, interesting. I'll have to check it out. A broad green carpet was unrolling itself upon the desert. While advancing across the carpet was a wonderful procession that made the girl open her eyes in amazement as she gazed. First came a magnificent golden chariot drawn by a great lion and an immense tiger, who stood shoulder to shoulder and trotted along as gracefully as a well-matched team of thoroughbred horses. And standing upright within the chariot was a beautiful girl clothed in flowing robes of silver gauze and wearing a jeweled diadem upon her dainty head. She held in one hand the satin ribbons that guided her astonishing team, and in the other an ivory wand that separated at the top into two prongs, the prongs tipped by the letters O and Z, made of glistening diamonds set closely together. The girl seemed neither older nor larger than Dorothy herself, and at once the prisoner in the tower guessed that the lovely driver of the chariot must be that Ozma of Oz, of whom she had so lately heard from TikTok. That must be a long-ass green carpet. Following close behind the chariot, Dorothy saw her old friend the Scarecrow riding calmly astride a wooden sawhorse, which pranced and trotted as naturally as any meat horse could have done. And then came Nick Chopper, the Tin Woodman, with his funnel-shaped cap tipped carelessly over his left ear, his gleaming axe over his right shoulder, and his whole body sparkling as brightly as it had ever done in the old days when she first knew him. The Tin Woodman was on foot, marching at the head of a company of 27 soldiers, of whom some were lean and some fat, some short and some tall, but all the 27 were dressed in handsome uniforms of various designs and colors, no two being alike in any respect. Behind the soldiers, the green carpet rolled itself up again, so that there was always just enough of it for the procession to walk upon, in order that their feet not come in contact with the deadly, life-destroying sands of the desert. Dorothy knew at once it was a magic carpet she beheld, and her heart beat high with hope and joy as she realized she was soon to be rescued and allowed to greet her dearly beloved friends of Oz, the Scarecrow, the Tin Woodman, and the Cowardly Lion. How do they know she's there? Oh, Black Raid! Teacher's pet! Yay, Black Raid! Yay! We get to play a game together on stream. I still need to work mine out with Iseo, and then we will also have a stream with you. Yay! Congratulations! we will talk about games. I'll talk to Iseo. We got to get with her on that, and then we'll talk to you about games. Oh, and on Monday, while I'm here, I am finally collabing with Kuro. I think he's going to stream. I don't think I'm going to that day. We're gonna funnel everyone over there. We're going to play Apex. And I'm gonna die over and over again. It's gonna be glorious. So blah blah, you get to see me play Apex, #1 in the world. Over on Kuro's channel. Let me do a shout out. Oh, so that's what's the redeem do? Yes! The redeem makes you, so if you are a streamer, everyone go follow Kuro. I demand it. If you are a streamer and you are a teacher's pet, you can pretty much pick any game that can be played by both of us. If you are not a streamer, I will give you a list of games we can play. If you are a streamer, it can be a multi-stream game, if need be. If you are not a streamer, it is only a one-off. And by streamer, I mean like active streamer, not just having a channel randomly. Yay! Okay. Goals for everyone. Become teacher's pet. Maybe I will make a special... Yes, your options are much greater. I think I'm gonna make a special section in my Discord for teacher pets. Like a special, like I have honor students and stuff who are kind of like the VIPs. I'll make the teacher's pets separate. Things to do. Okay. Where are we? Indeed, the girl felt herself as good as rescued as soon as she recognized those in the procession. For she well knew the courage and loyalty of her old comrades, and also believed that any others who came from their marvelous country would prove to be pleasant and reliable acquaintances. As soon as the last bit of desert was passed, and all the procession, from the beautiful and dainty Ozma to the last soldier, had reached the grassy meadows of the land of Ev, the magic carpet rolled itself together and entirely disappeared. Then the chariot driver turned to her lion and tiger in a broad roadway leading up to the palace, and the others followed, while Dorothy still gazed from her tower window in eager excitement. Another fun fact. Tin Man actually doesn't like Scarecrow, but he doesn't have the heart to tell. But he does have the heart to tell him now. He has a heart, blah blah. He got it from the Wizard of Oz, hello. They came quite close to the front door of the palace and then halted, the Scarecrow dismounting from his sawhorse to approach the sign fastened to the door, that he might read what it said. Dorothy, just above him, could keep silent no longer. "Here I am!" she shouted as loudly as she could. "Here's Dorothy!" "Dorothy who?" asked the Scarecrow, tipping his head to look upward until he nearly lost his balance and tumbled over backward. "Dorothy Gale, of course, your friend from Kansas," she answered. "Why, hello, Dorothy," said the Scarecrow. "What in the world are you doing up there?" "Nothing," she called down, "because there's nothing to do. Save me, my friend, save me." "You seem to be quite safe now," replied the Scarecrow. "But I'm a prisoner. I'm locked in so that I can't get out," she pleaded. "That's all right," said the Scarecrow. "You might be worse off, little Dorothy. Just consider the matter. You can't get drowned or be run over by a wheeler or fall out of an apple tree. Some folks would think they were lucky to be up there." "Well, I don't," declared the girl. "And I want to get down immediately and see you and the Tin Woodman and the Cowardly Lion." "Very well," said the Scarecrow, nodding. "It shall be just as you say, little friend. Who locked you up?" "You're sorry, I wasn't aware." He was given a lovely ticking heart. "The Princess Langwidere, who is a horrid creature," she answered. At this Ozma, who had been listening carefully to the conversation, called to Dorothy from her chariot, asking, "Why did the princess lock you up, my dear?" Because, exclaimed Dorothy, I wouldn't let her have my head for her collection and take an old cast-off head in exchange for it. I do not blame you, exclaimed Ozma promptly. I will see the princess at once and oblige her to liberate you. Must go and get ready to leave for home. Thank you for the story session. Thank you for coming, Goomy, and thank you for my sea slug. I love it. It's so super, super cute. I hope you come visit again. And thank you for the follow. Oh, thank you very, very much, cried Dorothy, who, as soon as she heard the sweet voice of the girlish ruler of Oz, knew that she would soon learn to love her dearly. Ozma now drove her chariot around to the third door of the wing, upon which the Tin Woodman boldly proceeded to knock. As soon as the maid opened the door, Ozma, bearing in her hand the ivory wand, stepped into the hall and made her way at once to the drawing room, followed by all her company except the lion and the tiger. And the 27 soldiers made such a noise and a clatter that the little maid Nanda ran away screaming to her mistress, whereupon the Princess Langwidere, roused to great anger by this rude invasion of her palace, came running into the drawing room without any assistance whatever. There she stood before the slight and delicate form of the little girl from Oz and cried out, "How dare you enter my palace unbidden? Leave this room at once, or I will bind you and all your people in chains and throw you into my darkest dungeons." "What a dangerous lady," murmured the Scarecrow in a soft voice. "She seems a little nervous," replied the Tin Woodman. But Ozma only smiled at the angry princess. "Sit down, please," she said quietly. "I have traveled a long way to see you, and you must listen to what I have to say." "Must!" screamed the princess, her black eyes flashing with fury, for she still wore her number 17 head. "Must! To me!" "To be sure," said Ozma. "I am ruler of the land of Oz, and I am powerful enough to destroy all your kingdom, if I so wish. Yet I did not come here to do harm, but rather to free the royal family of Ev from the thrall of the Gnome King, the news having reached me that he is holding the queen and her children prisoners." Hearing these words, Langwidere suddenly became quiet. "I wish you could, indeed, free my aunt and her 10 royal children," said she eagerly. "For if they were restored to their proper forms and station, they could rule the kingdom of Ev themselves, and that would save me a lot of worry and trouble. At present, there are at least 10 minutes every day that I must devote to affairs of state, and I would like to be able to spend my whole time in admiring my beautiful heads." The Hungry Tiger. "Then we will presently discuss this matter," said Ozma, "and try to find a way to liberate your aunt and cousins. But first you must liberate another prisoner, the little girl you have locked up in your tower." "Of course," said Langwidere readily. "I had forgotten all about her. That was yesterday, you know, and a princess cannot be expected to remember today what she did yesterday. Come with me, and I will release the prisoner at once." So Ozma followed her, and they passed up the stairs that led to the room in the tower. While they were gone, Ozma's followers remained in the drawing room, and the Scarecrow was leaning against a form that he had mistaken for a copper statue when a harsh metallic voice said suddenly in his ear, "Get off my foot, please. You are scratching my polish." So I had to look at myself all day. Well, this character is different than in the movie. Yeah, for sure. I can't remember what happened yesterday. That was a different head. But she's wearing the same head, which is why it's even funnier. "Oh, excuse me," he replied, hastily drawing back. "Are you alive?" "No," said Tik-Tok. "I am only a machine, but I can think and speak and act when I am properly wound up. Just now my action is run down, and Dorothy has the key to it." "That's all right," replied the Scarecrow. "Dorothy will soon be free, and then she'll attend to your works. But it must be a great misfortune not to be alive. I'm sorry for you." "Why?" asked Tik-Tok. "Because you have no brains, as I have," said the Scarecrow. "Oh, yes, I have," returned Tik-Tok. "I am fitted with Smith and Tinker's improved combination steel brains. They are what make me think. What sort of brains are you fitted with?" "I don't know," admitted the Scarecrow. "They were given to me by the Great Wizard of Oz, and I didn't get a chance to examine them before he put them in. But they work splendidly, and my conscience is very active. Have you a conscience?" "No," said Tik-Tok. And no heart, I suppose, added the Tin Woodman, who had been listening with interest to this conversation. No, said Tick-Tock. Then, continued the Tin Woodman, I regret to say that you are greatly inferior to my friend the Scarecrow and to myself, for we are both alive, and he has brains which do not need to be wound up, while I have an excellent heart that is continually beating in my bosom. I congratulate you, replied Tick-Tock. I cannot help being your inferior, for I am a mere machine. When I am wound up, I do my duty, going just as my machinery is made to go. You have no idea how full of machinery I am. I can guess, said the Scarecrow, looking at the machine man curiously. Some day I'd like to take you apart and see just how you are made. Do not do that, I beg of you, said Tick-Tock, for you could not put me together again, and my usefulness would be destroyed. Oh, are you useful? Asked the Scarecrow, surprised. Very, said Tick-Tock. In that case, the Scarecrow kindly promised, I won't fool with your interior at all, for I am a poor mechanic and might mix you up. Thank you, said Tick-Tock. Just then Ozma re-entered the room, leading Dorothy by the hand, followed closely by the Princess Langwidere. The Hungry Tiger. I don't know this character at all. This one's a new one to me. The first thing Dorothy did was to rush into the embrace of the Scarecrow, whose painted face beamed with delight as he pressed her form to his straw-padded bosom. Then the Tin Woodman embraced her, very gently, for he knew his tin arms might hurt her if he squeezed too roughly. These greetings having been exchanged, Dorothy took the key to Tick-Tock from her pocket and wound up the machine man's action, so that he could bow properly when introduced to the rest of the company. While doing this, she told them how useful Tick-Tock had been to her, and both the Scarecrow and the Tin Woodman shook hands with the machine once more and thanked him for protecting their friend. Then Dorothy asked, Where is Billina? I don't know, said the Scarecrow. Who is Billina? She's a yellow hen who is another friend of mine, answered the girl, anxiously. I wonder what has become of her. She is in the chicken house in the backyard, said the princess. My drawing room is no place for hens. Without waiting to hear more, Dorothy ran to get Billina, and just outside the door she came upon the Cowardly Lion, still hitched to the chariot beside the Great Tiger. The Cowardly Lion had a big bow of blue ribbon fastened to the long hair between his ears, and the tiger wore a bow of red ribbon on his tail, just in front of the bushy end. Tiger wore a bow of red ribbon on his tail just in front of the bushy end? Wait. Tiger versus lion. But wait. Doesn't a lion have a tufted tail? A tiger doesn't have a tufted tail. I know, Scarecrow, savage. Tiger wore a bow of red ribbon on his tail just in front of the bushy end. Yeah. Right, they're fairly straight. Like a cat, like a regular cat, whereas a lion is tufted, he has the mane and a tufted tail. Oh, maybe tigers and fairy tales do. Oh, you teach zoology now too, huh? I would hope I would know my animals. Now I'm very confused. I'm like, oh shit, am I getting my animals mixed up? In an instant, Dorothy was hugging the huge lion joyfully. I'm so glad to see you again, she cried. I am also glad to see you, Dorothy, said the lion. We've had some fine adventures together, haven't we? Yes, indeed, she replied. How are you? As cowardly as ever, the beast answered in a meek voice. Every little thing scares me and makes my heart beat fast. But let me introduce you to a new friend of mine, the Hungry Tiger. Oh, are you hungry? She asked. I'm going to end up Googling tiger tails. She asked, turning to the other beast, who was just then yawning so widely that he displayed 2 rows of terrible teeth and a mouth big enough to startle anyone. Oh my god. Every time I see the word yawn, I yawn. Dreadfully hungry, answered the tiger, snapping his jaws together with a fierce click. Then why don't you eat something? She asked. It's no use, said the tiger sadly. I've tried that, but I always get hungry again. Why, it is the same with me, said Dorothy, yet I keep on eating. But you eat harmless things, so it doesn't matter, replied the tiger. For my part, I am a savage beast, and have an appetite for all sorts of poor little living creatures, from a chipmunk to fat babies. How dreadful, said Dorothy. Isn't it, though? Returned the hungry tiger, licking his lips with his long red tongue. Fat babies. Don't they sound delicious? But I've never eaten any, because my conscience tells me it is wrong. If I had no conscience, I would probably eat the babies and then get hungry again, which would mean that I had sacrificed the poor babies for nothing. No, hungry I was born, and hungry I shall die. But I will not have any cruel deeds on my conscience to be sorry for. I think you are a very good tiger, said Dorothy, patting the huge head of the beast. In that you are mistaken, was the reply. I am a good beast, perhaps, but a disgracefully bad tiger. For it is the nature of tigers to be cruel and ferocious, and in refusing to eat harmless living creatures, I am acting as no good tiger has ever acted before. That is why I left the forest and joined my friend, the cowardly lion. Love the hungry tiger. He's great. Yeah, I like him. He sounds great. Like the woggle bug. Some suggest the hungry tiger is the same tiger they met in the woods in The Wizard of Oz. Which one? Not the one that was chasing the queen mouse, right? Because that one was taken care of, and it wasn't a tiger, I thought. It was just like a kind of like a bobcat or something. Oh, a different one? I don't remember a tiger. I think it was referred to as the biggest of tigers. Oh, yes! I think I remember. Like, afterwards, when they were going to see Glinda, where all the other beast words? The beast word? Was it that one? Because I know they saw all the other beasts. Yeah, okay, yeah, I remember that. I wouldn't be surprised if it's the same one. Yeah, I could see that. But the lion is not really cowardly, said Dorothy. I have seen him act as bravely as can be. All a mistake, my dear, protested the lion gravely. To others I may have seemed brave at times, but I have never been in any danger that I was not afraid. Nor I, said Dorothy truthfully. But I must go and set free Billina, and then I will see you again. She ran around to the backyard of the palace and soon found the chicken house, being guided to it by a loud cackling and crowing and a distracting hubbub of sounds such as chickens make when they are excited. I bet Goomy only plays chill games so that Goomy doesn't get salty. I would prefer Goomy not get salty while sitting on my head. Something seemed to be wrong in the chicken house, and when Dorothy looked through the slats in the door, she saw a group of hens and roosters huddled in one corner and watching what appeared to be a whirling ball of feathers. It bounded here and there about the chicken house, and at first Dorothy could not tell what it was, while the screeching of the chickens nearly deafened her. But suddenly the bunch of feathers stopped whirling, and then, to her amazement, the girl saw Billina crouching upon the prostrate form of a speckled rooster. For an instant they both remained motionless, and then the yellow hen shook her wings to settle her feathers and walked toward the door with a strut of proud defiance and a cluck of victory, while the speckled rooster limped away to the group of other chickens, trailing his crumpled plumage in the dust as he went. "Why, Billina!" cried Dorothy in a shocked voice. "Have you been fighting?" "I really think I have," retorted Billina. "Do you think I'd let that speckled villain of a rooster lord it over me and claim to run this chicken house as long as I am able to peck and scratch? Not if my name is Bill." "It isn't Bill, it's Billina, and you're talking slang, which is very undignified," said Dorothy reprovingly. "Come here, Billina, and I'll let you out, for Ozma of Oz is here and has set us free." So the yellow hen came to the door, which Dorothy unlatched for her to pass through, and the other chickens silently watched them from their corner without offering to approach nearer. The girl lifted her friend in her arms and exclaimed, "Oh, Bellina, how dreadful you look! You've lost a lot of feathers, and one of your eyes is nearly pecked out, and your comb is bleeding." "That's nothing," said Bellina. "Just look at the speckled rooster. Didn't I do him up brown?" Dorothy shook her head. "I don't approve of this at all," she said, carrying Bellina away toward the palace. "It isn't a good thing for you to associate with those common chickens. They would soon spoil your good manners, and you wouldn't be respectable anymore." "I didn't ask to associate with them," replied Bellina. "It is that cross old princess who is to blame. But I was raised in the United States, and I won't allow any one-horse chicken in the land of Ev to run over me and put on airs as long as I can lift a claw in self-defense." This is nothing. You should see the other guy. Pretty much. "Very well, Bellina," said Dorothy. "We won't talk about it anymore." Soon they came to the Cowardly Lion and the Hungry Tiger, to whom the girl introduced the yellow hen. "Glad to meet any friend of Dorothy's," said the lion politely. "To judge by your present appearance, you are not a coward, as I am." "Your present appearance makes my mouth water," said the tiger, looking at Bellina greedily. My, how good you would taste if I could only crunch you between my jaws. But don't worry, you'd only appease my appetite for a moment, so it isn't worthwhile to eat you." "Thank you," said the hen, nestling closer in Dorothy's arms. "Besides, it wouldn't be right," continued the tiger, looking steadily at Bellina and clicking his jaws together. "Of course not," cried Dorothy hastily. "Bellina is my friend, and you mustn't ever eat her under any circumstances." "I'll try to remember that," said the tiger, "but I'm a little absent-minded at times." Then Dorothy carried her pet into the drawing room of the palace, where Tik-Tok, being invited to do so by Ozma, had seated himself between the Scarecrow and the Tin Woodman. Opposite to them sat Ozma herself and the Princess Langwidere, and beside them there was a vacant chair for Dorothy. Around this important group was arranged the Army of Oz, and as Dorothy looked at the handsome uniforms of the 27, she said, "Why, they seem to be all officers." They are, all except one," answered the Tin Woodman. "I have in my army 8 generals, 6 colonels, 7 majors, and 5 captains, besides 1 private for them to command. I'd like to promote the private, for I believe no private should ever be in public life. And I've also noticed that officers usually fight better and are more reliable than common soldiers. Besides, the officers are more important looking and lend dignity to our army." "No doubt you are right," said Dorothy, seating herself beside Ozma. "And now," announced the girlish ruler of Oz, "we will hold a solemn conference to decide the best manner of liberating the royal family of this fair land of Ev from their long imprisonment." I'm laughing too, that's so great. "I believe no private should ever be in public." So he's just got an army of all generals and colonels. All officers, no regular army. And that is the end of the story for today. Next Thursday, we will finish Ozma of Oz. We have 40 pages left to read. So we're like halfway through the story. Yeah, wait. $30, $40. Yeah, okay. I've read like half of it so far. Okay. Yay! Oh my gosh, that was really good. I'm enjoying this story. It's really good. What does everyone else think of the story? If you're new here, welcome. My name is Sophia. Feel free to hit the follow button and get alerts when class starts. This is so much fun. It really is! I'm enjoying reading the Oz books on stream. I had never really thought to read them myself. I'm glad I am. It's really good. Enjoyable. Ooh. There we go. Alright, let's see. Okay, so that's why Oz books are great. See, I know! Now I know why. I had never really thought to read them. Now I'm gonna bully everyone I know into reading them. Or at least listening to my VODs. Which I should upload to YouTube. The sheer play on words in each is something I genuinely... Yeah, really. There's a lot of play on words, wordplay, and flat out puns. See, Matsu? You need puns. I told a friend of mine who loves puns and is constantly punning it up, and he said, ah, yes, I would be the Woggle Bug. I didn't expect it either. It's very clever. I think it's clever, and it's really cool that it's in a children's book too, because adults will get joy out of it, and kids who are, you know, might be confused at first, but then if they learn the, you know, the multiple meanings of all these words, it's like, oh, this is great. Like the private shouldn't be in public. Ah, I love it. All right, let's see. Okay, so yeah, so okay, very excited. So Sunday is a very important stream for me. It is not my typical Horizon stream. It is going to be my first interview with Jillian St. Kevin, who I have tagged her in the posts on Twitter, so you can see her page and hopefully follow her as well. I will be posting a couple more times the promo material for it with questions so that you can answer and enter the giveaway for her book, The Secretary and the Ghost. The digital copy will be given away at 1:00 p.m. Central Time on Sunday, because this author lives in New Zealand, so it's Monday for her. She will be on my channel, and we will be talking about her as an author and things like that, and reading an excerpt from The Secretary and the Ghost, which is the first in her series, and I love it. It's phenomenal. I own the digital and physical copies of most of her books because I think they're fantastic. So if you have any questions that you want me to ask ahead of time and like prepare her for it, please feel free to leave them over in my Discord. But also you can ask them during the stream itself. I don't know how long the stream will run, probably a shorter one, an hour. I might play some Sims afterwards, if it's very short, but we'll see. So yeah, I want to end it like, any questions? This is, class, but if there are any questions, feel free to ask. And if you're new, please feel free to hit follow, or you can join me over on Twitter, and follow there and answer, the questions so that you can enter the giveaway for the book. It's really good, I promise. I loved it so much. Okay, so let's see who is streaming and see if there's anyone that I can raid. There's a few, but everyone has quite a few viewers, so let's see if there's anyone new that we can visit and give some love to. That is not a VTuber. Everyone feel free to, talk what's going on. This one's a possibility. See if there's anything. Elder and Genshin. Everyone's playing Genshin. Final Fantasy. Fortnite. At this point, I'm looking at games. No one I know is doing reading streams right now. None of the people I follow are doing readings. I'm not gonna go to Subnautica stream. I know Crusader would pop out real damn fast if I did that. I'm not that evil. Who's this? They're playing Pokemon. They look pretty cool. Nope, they've got. I like meeting people that don't have many followers, so we can make new friends and help boost them. see. Feel free to chat so I can talk to everyone. That one is Chinese. Yep, staying out of the ocean. Why? That one is in Spanish. Everyone's playing Valorant right now. Valorant or Fortnite is like the thing, and Genshin. Those are like the most common ones at the moment. Hard to type while eating ice cream. Ooh, what ice cream are you eating? Oh my god, I want Oreo cookies and cream ice cream right now. I'm gonna check one more and then see if there's any. Ooh, Moose Tracks. It was a thing where I used to live. Yes, I know exactly what Moose Tracks is. Yep. Yup, so good. Oh, one of my favorite ice creams is black raspberry. I'm originally from New England, so I know Moose Tracks very well. And I will argue that the best ice cream is Gifford's. If you know, you know. If you know, you know. That kind of puts where I am familiar with. I do know. Yes! You know what's up, Annie Vet. Yes. Oh, Gifford's is so good. Oh, now I'm now I'm craving it. Okay, you know what? I keep finding this person and scrolling past them, so let us go visit. This is where did okay? Their username is Done Bad. They only have one person viewing right now, and they've just hit 52 with the affiliate. So let's just go raid and show them some love. They are playing Final Fantasy XIV online, which I just canceled my monthly account on because I've been paying for it for the last year and not playing. So I'm like, you know what? I'm not playing right now, so I'm gonna stop. So let's go over there. Let's raid them. Everyone, thank you so much for coming today, and I really hope to see you on Sunday. So let's go. I'm gonna start that raid and we will pop on over. So thank you everyone for coming. I will see you on Sunday. Goodbye.